Hello. So this video is going to be on specialist slots, how you get them, how you use them, and how you can get ahead of your opponents using this feature in Civ 5. All this is based on using the NQ mod version 10 and um, mostly on specific maps special to Hellblazers and the Hellblazers map packs, which contains the Pangean continents. So special slots are obtained through certain buildings and wonders, um, and these buildings will give you special slots based on what they produce and for specific great people. Specialists slots consume 2 food when you work them, like a normal citizen, but you are not working a tile in your city borders, you are working a specialist slot in your city management. Um, and the special slots produce not food or hammers or gold for your city, but instead other yields and great person points, or GPP, as I'm going to refer to them for the rest of this video. So if we go ahead and we open up the city management screen, on the right side here is where you're going to manage specialists. In the first area, we have our great people, how long it'll take to generate our next great person, depending on how much GPP for that specific great person we're making. As you can see here, we're making 1.25 per turn in this city for the Great Rider. We're making 1 culture per turn from I believe the Hanging Gardens? No. I don't know where that one is coming from. But, alright, that's weird. Okay. So, the next area that you're going to focus on is your specialist buildings. This is where all the buildings that contain specialist slots are going to be and show up. It'll tell you what they produce and what their maintenance cost is. As you can see, the Writers Guild here is a 1 GPT maintenance cost, the university's 2. The market generates 1.6 GP per turn, and the workshop takes 2 per turn. The workshop at base makes 1.8 hammers. The university at base makes 4.29 science. Now, the benefits out of working specialist slots, if we go ahead and use one of our unemployed citizens, we can go ahead and put one of them into the Writers Guild. Now, this will generate 3 culture per turn, added onto your total, and it will generate Great Rider points. And how many points it generates depends on the building. Most of them are 3. Some buildings only have 2 slots, like the Writers Guild and the University, and some only have 1 slot, like the market and the workshop. It all depends on the building and how many slots it contains and what it produces. So as we can see here, the Writers Guild is generating our 3 culture per turn. It's not taking any more gold per turn, and it is generating not 1.25 GPP for writers, it's generating 5 now, which will greatly increase the speed on our next Great Rider. As you can see here, it went from 54 turns all the way down to 14 turns, which is pretty huge. And that's only working 1 Writers Guild slot. Now, early game, you're not going to want to work these slots, you're going to want to focus on growing. But once you get to a comfortable size in your city, you can start working these slots if they benefit you. So if we work our second Writers Guild slot, we'll make another 3 culture per turn, totaling up to 6, and we will make even more Great Rider points towards our next Great Rider, taking it from 14 down to 8, which is not as huge as the first jump, but it scales as the more points you generate. And as you can see, the city bonus there adds on 25%. There's different bonuses you can get in your city to increase how many GPP you're producing each turn. So we can go ahead and we can unclick these slots, and that'll add back to our unemployed citizens. It'll actually try and work a tile. If you want to unwork the tile, just click on the tile, and it'll add back to the unemployed citizens. If we go ahead and work one of the university slots, this will generate 3.99, rounding up to 4, science per turn. It won't take any more gold per turn, and now we're generating Great Scientist in 18 turns because we're making 3.75 GPP for scientist every turn now. The university is generating 3 GPP for scientist every turn, and it is generating 4 science per turn. So if we go ahead and we work the second university slot, it'll add on 4 more science per turn. It'll take another unemployed citizen, and now we will be generating our great scientist in 9 turns. This is very powerful classical medieval. In the NQ mod, if you build the Angkor Wat, you get a free university, which is in the tech, and I believe the tech before universities come out. So you have the chance of getting universities before everybody else in one city at an earlier rate. And if you're able to work these university slots as soon as you build that wonder, you're putting yourself very ahead at generating great scientists and getting ahead in the tech tree. I usually build Angkor Wat if I'm going for a religious game, because I'm going to end up going for that tech anyways as one of my main techs, because it contains the Grand Temple and the Great Mosque of Djinn and Hagia, which are all very good religious wonders. So we can go ahead and unwork these slots, and the market and the workshop work very similar to these first two. The market will generate more GPT. As you can see, it went from 1.6 to 3.3, adding on about 1.7 GPT by working this slot. And now we're generating great merchant points, 3.75 per turn, and we will generate a great merchant in 18 turns. Now, unlike the university, this only has 1 slot, so we can't work a second slot and lower this turn timer down. Same for the workshop. It'll generate more hammers. It looks like it generated 1.4 hammers there, and it's generating 3 GPP for engineers per turn, totaling 3.75, which is 18 turns. So that is the basics on specialists. Now we're going to get into a more in-depth view on it right about now. Alright, so what I have here is I have a larger city that contains every specialist building in the game. I'm going to go over a few of these buildings. Some of them are Civ unique, and some of them are policy unique. These are all the buildings you can get in the game that contain specialist buildings. So I'm just going to go over a few of them. All of them are pretty self-explanatory on what they do. There's just different values for different buildings on what they produce. The scriptorium, the gallery, and the conservatory generate 1 culture, 1 happiness, and 1 tourism per turn, and that is when you finish the aesthetics policy tree. You'll gain all 3 of these buildings, and if you work the scriptorium, you get the writer points. The gallery gives artist points, and the conservatory gives musician points. I have all 3 guilds here. They are all great person dependent. The writer obviously generates writers, artist generates artists, and musicians generate musicians. The public school and the research lab and the Watt are all pretty similar to the university. The university and the Watt are the only ones with 2 specialist slots, and the public school and the research lab only have 1 specialist slot. The Watt also generates 3 culture per turn at base, and is unique to the Siamese. The bank, the bazaar, the Hans, the market, the satrap's court, and the stock exchange are all merchant specialist buildings, and the stock exchange is the only one with 2 specialist slots for merchants. And satrap's court, which is from Persia, generates 2 base happiness. The production ones, we have the coffee house, the factory, the longhouse, the windmill, and the workshop. The factory is the only one with 2 specialist slots for engineers. The coffee house is special to Austria, and the longhouse is special to Iroquois. So yeah, that's about it for the buildings. Obviously, if you were to work all of these, let me see if I am able to do that. I will show you the kind of yields you could see. This is pretty much next to impossible to do in a real game, but it can happen. So I am able to work all these. And as you can see, we're generating every great person at base within 6 turns, mostly 5 turns. The Great Engineer comes at 3 turns. Pretty crazy. Oh yeah, so I wasn't able to work all of them. Like if we do the hammers one, I'm getting 3 there. If we do merchants, I'm gonna get it in 3. If we do universities, I will get the scientist in 3. So I couldn't work every slot, but this is what you could see. You can see stuff like 12 all the way up to 22 per turn, working all these on, and that's not even counting any other bonus you get outside of the city bonus. So that's about it. Now we're going to move on to the great people and how they function and work in the game. Alright, so now we're going to talk about great people, how they work and how they function, some of their abilities, and how they can be used in your game. I'm going to go with the militaristic great people first, and then we're going to move on to the more neutral type of great people and to cultural great people. First on the list is the Great Admiral. The Great Admiral can give a 20% strength bonus to naval units within 2 tiles of it. Same with the General, only for land units. The Great Admiral can repair all boats in a 1 tile radius around it, and it will consume the Great Admiral. The Great General can construct a citadel, which will place a Great Tile Improvement, giving any unit stationed in that tile improvement 100% defense strength, and damaging enemy units adjacent to it for 30 damage every turn. And the citadel will also fetch any land adjacent to it that is not owned by you. If we go here, I can construct a citadel here. It'll glow up. But if I move here, it will not be able to construct a citadel because it has to be adjacent to your territory or inside your territory. So if we go here and construct the citadel, it fetches all the land, and it constructs the citadel. So any unit placed in that tile will gain the 100% combat strength. The Khan, Mongolia's special Great General unit, can also construct a citadel. It gives the 20% combat strength within 2 tiles, but this unit can also heal adjacent units around it every turn for 15 health, and it has increased movement. Pretty strong. This is pretty influential if you're at war with Mongolia. You'll get crushed very easily with this unit, so do not let this unit live or try to force it out of a war. If we move on to the neutral great people, we have the Great Scientist, the Great Engineer, and the Great Merchant. All of these can create a special Great Tile Improvement. The Academy from the Scientist can generate +8 science on a tile. The Engineer can construct a manufactory, will add 4 production to a tile, and the Merchant can add a customs house, which will add 4 gold to a tile. The Scientist can generate science towards what you're researching, and any excess science after that will be put into the next research. The Engineer can rush a building or wonder inside a city. Note that the Great Engineer has to be stationed inside the city to occur. You can rush a building or wonder in a city with a certain number of hammers, and any excess hammers that aren't used for that building or wonder will be put into the next construction in that building. The Great Merchant can conduct trade missions. If you station this inside a city-state's territory, you can conduct a trade mission, which will grant you a lump sum of gold, around 500 gold, and 30 influence with that city-state, and it will consume the Great Merchant. Venice is currently disabled in the NQ mod, but I figured I'd explain it because some people might not be using the NQ mod. The only benefit that Venice has is that it has an extra ability to buy city-states. This will consume the merchant, and it will place the city-state that you want to buy under your control as a puppeted city. Note you cannot annex the city, so it will stay puppeted, and it has to be inside the city-state's territory to have that ability. Pretty useful, similar to Austria, but you don't have to spend gold for this. You just have to have a great merchant of Venice inside the territory. Now we can go on to the cultural great people. We have the artist, the musician, and the writer. All 3 of these can create great works. if I wanted to create a great work from this musician, I'd have to have a musician slot open in a city um, to create a great work there. Note that you can only create great works while you're stationed inside a city or adjacent to a city. You have to have a slot available for the great work to go into, or else you will not be able to create the great work. Specific wonders in buildings construct them. For the artist, the other ability is to start a golden age, which will generate extra production, gold and culture for your civ for a certain number of turns. The musician can perform concert tours, generating tourism towards the civ that the musician is stationed in, and 20% of that goes to every other civ. Pretty useful for cultural victories. And finally, we have the Great Rider. The Great Rider is able to generate a lump sum of culture, similar to the scientist and the engineer, based on your culture per turn. It will add on to the total you need for your next policy, and so on and so forth. So that is going to wrap it up for the great people, and that is also going to wrap up this video. I hope it helped. I hope you learned a bit more about how to use specialist and great people, and how you can use them in your game to benefit your game. Some will get you ahead, some by a lot, some by a little. It just all depends on how you use it. This is Swink, and I'll see y'all later.